Did you know that more than 50% of sales pros regularly fail to achieve their annual sales targets? Yep, that number was a surprise to me as well. Corporations invest in hiring the right people, they invest in training those people, but it doesn't seem to be doing the job. Well, let's have ourselves a pocket sized pep talk because I've got one of the most seasoned salesmen you're ever going to meet, and we're going to figure all this out.
A Pocket Sized Pep Talk, the podcast that can help energize your business and your life with a quick, inspiring message. Now, here's your host, Rob Jolles.
Steve Weinberg has spent his life selling and helping others sell better, more, and faster. He's closed over $500 million in sales and new business, and his clients list reads like a who's who of business, including, and I just cherry-picked the tech giants, Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, eBay, PayPal, Google, Facebook. He is the author of Above Quota Performance, aimed at transferring his knowledge to others that want to improve their sales results. And that sounded good enough to me. I was excited to have him as a guest. Glad to have you with us, Steve.
Thanks, Rob. I'm really happy to be here.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's just dive right in. I want to take advantage of all my minutes with you. And I want to start with the book. I interview a lot of authors, and as a fellow author, I think we're all part of a fraternity and sorority that typically a book finds us. We don't really find it. So how did this book find you?
It's a long story, but to give you a really short version of it, and the pandemic actually helped too. But to give you a short version, when I trained salespeople, I put together a list of bullets. And for lack of a better term, I call them Steve-isms. And one of the Steve-isms, for example, would be if you're not winning, you're losing. So I would explain all the Steve-isms to the people and then discuss it with them and hopefully enrich their sales career. When I retired, which was right before the beginning of the pandemic, I decided that I wanted to transfer some of the knowledge that I had to salespeople because right before I retired, they actually put me in a training position where I was working with a lot of new salespeople, and I really enjoyed it. And you mentioned that the fact that 50% of salespeople fail. That's an astounding number. It was a surprise to me when I did the research. I think if someone had asked me, I would have said something like 10 or 15%, or maybe on the high side, 20%. But I found about 6 sources that all were somewhere between 48 and 52%. So that's a real number.
Yeah.
And I saw in my sales career, I saw the catastrophic effects of what happened when people failed. Everything from losing their job to losing their home to losing their family, divorces, and even a suicide. So I felt that if I could do anything to impact that, that would be a great contribution for me to the country, to mankind, to the sales profession.
Right.
And then as I looked at my Steve-isms, I thought, well, these each could be a chapter. And I started writing this, and they each became a chapter.
Right. Right.
Some of the things that I had in there were very counterintuitive and radical to some people, and very different from what a lot of sales trainers train people on, and what I was trained on.
Right. Well, we're going to get at those. We're going to get at those. So
a lot of resistance from some people about it. And I explained it in the book as to what's involved in each of these.
Excellent. I folks, count how many times Steve and I have a connection here because, and this is the first time we've met. I had what I called Rob's rules. So you had your Steve-isms. I had Rob's rules. Now I didn't necessarily base the book on it, but I actually made cards and I would put them up as I was going through sales training just to help people kind of crystallize some of these thoughts. So I can identify with those rules for sure. Okay. All right. So let's stay on this theme of people failing. And yes, I've seen it. I came out of the insurance industry where the turnover rate is, in the 80%. And so I saw, I'll add something to your list, although your list of depression. And is I saw people just sort of lose their will, lose their faith in themselves. And that's one of the things that also attracted me, not just to selling, but to trying to work with salespeople. So let's stay on that. 50% failure. Uh, why? And just give me, maybe, because I know there's more than one answer. Give me one or two of the biggest reasons why you think salespeople fail.
There are a lot of reasons. I think I listed about 18 in the book, but I think one of them is that the training that they receive is really inadequate, and it's really pointed in the wrong direction. A lot of things have changed. Technology's changed, the way we present change, but sales training really hasn't changed all that much. The sales training that most salespeople receive today is not all that dissimilar than what they received 5 years ago, 10 years ago, maybe even 15 years ago. So while everything else is changing, that isn't changing. So a lot of people, for example, are taught they're taught the minutest detail about the products and solutions that they sell. And so they can answer any question that somebody has. Can it do this? Can it do that? How does it do this? How does it do that? But they never are taught to ask the probing questions to find out if somebody really has a need or a want, and if it's something that'll really help them out.
Right. All right. Let me jump in,
Okay.
because once again, we've matched.
Right.
It's something that I'm fairly outspoken about. I don't. I think one of the problems with sales training is people get trained on product training.
Right.
It's called sales training. So I don't necessarily think the sales training is necessarily failing. I think that we product train people, tell them they've been sales trained, and away they go. Because you just listed, when you start talking about asking questions and listening or probing deeper, which other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the show?
Right.
That isn't, I'm not going to call it an old school move, but that's been around. We're not doing it. I'm locked in 100% with you when I tell you the sales training. What Steve is mentioning here is the sales training is frequently failing because it isn't sales training. And I'll add this to the list, Steve, real fast. Sometimes it's very motivational, very inspirational, very entertaining. Trust me, I've spent a few minutes with Steve. He's entertaining. I can entertain too. It's not that a good trainer can't entertain. We'll entertain you a little bit. But we're looking for process behaviors. We're looking for moves. And I think that's where a lot of the confusion comes from. So I'm with you on that one for sure.
And one of the things I know that you specialize on and have written a book on is understanding the buyer's motives. Mm-hmm. And salespeople are not taught to do that. They're really not, except by you. I mean, most people, they teach them a sales methodology. There may be 8 steps, 10 steps, 12 steps that all has to do with what to do at each point in the sales cycle.
Right.
But they're never taught what the reverse of that is. What is a buyer going through on their side?
Yeah.
And differentiating between a need and a want, right? So, they don't understand. I can't, a lot of times I had salespeople come in and I'd be working on their forecast with them, and I'd say, "Are you winning this deal?" And they'd say, "Yeah." And I'd say, "Well, how do you know?" And they'd say to me, "Well, the prospect was really friendly to me. They smiled to me, and they asked me some good questions and everything, but they were really nice." And I'd look at them and I'd say, "Well, you haven't explained to me the why as to why they're buying. Do you know why they're buying? No. What problem are they trying to solve? Well, I don't know." That kind of thing. And that is it. I think that may be the number one reason why people fail. They just don't zero in on what the problem is and how to solve it.
Bingo. 2 things real fast. One, hold on to that, folks, because you could take a 2-day sales class and you just learn probably the most important thing you would learn in 2 days. And that is what Steve just hit on, is that it's not the need. People don't walk around with a list of needs going, "Here you go." If they do hand them to you, you might want to ask, if you're that smart, how come you haven't fixed it already? No, they walk around with problems, as Steve just said, And that's what they're grappling with. And they're trying to figure out, do I want to fix this or not? What's my level of urgency? How badly do I want this? When we have that product training and bury them with features and benefits, we're completely missing the boat. Where Steve's book is hitting on, and what Steve is telling you right now, and you just got a master class in sales, is it's what problem they're fixing. And he hit on another thing. Hope you don't mind. I just want to slow you down a little bit. It's a weird irony that very social people that smile and tell you, they give you a great conversation, and oh, Steve, I love what you've done here. They're very nice to meet with, but I'll tell you who I like meeting with. I like the one who says, I don't have a lot of time for you. You tell me what's in it for me to do this thing. Steve, I was on the phone with somebody who bought something from me yesterday, and it was sort of an accident, but he was on a Zoom call. He said, I have another meeting. And while I was talking, and hung up. I mean, I was talking to a blank screen. There were three other people, but I was smiling, thinking, a classic. Wasn't the most social visit we had, but I just got a deal done.
Right.
So it's weird, isn't it?
No, and I found, for example, that there are, as you brought up, there are very regional differences, and I know it's hard to generalize, but I spent a lot of time in Canada, and I spent a lot of time on the West Coast in California, and the people there are very friendly, and they're very respectful, and they're very nice, and they don't want to hurt your feelings. Now you go to New York, and they don't care about your feelings. Okay, it's about 99th on their list of concerns. So when you walk in their office, they go right away, hey, you want to get my business. This is what you got to do. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Okay. Now I prefer that. The other way, you're dancing around with them sometimes for months before they finally tell you what they really want, or you uncover it on your own.
Yeah.
Because they're afraid of hurting your feeling.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. That's why, Steve, I like trial closes sometimes. Not sometimes. I like trial closes, intelligently placed at critical decision points. And these are, as much as Steve and I love open probes, these aren't open. They're actually closed. They're designed to test where we are, take a temperature read. When you ask somebody, are you committed to making a change? And we don't walk in asking that question. We're driving towards that problem. And while somebody's going, oh, yeah, it's terrible. Oh, I don't like it. Good. Are you committed to making a change there? That's a trial close. When you have what you think the client wants before you go investing a lot of time and effort, turn that list around, let them see it and say, is that what it looks like? Is that what it's going to take to figure? And let them add to it. Let them take away. It's their list. But you see, these are trials. These are temperature reads. And this, because we still have to sell social people, but this will help you and that social person kind of get moving forward a little bit. So we take the guesswork out of it. I wish people weren't so afraid of trial closes.
And they're afraid of either hurting the feelings of the person they're talking to, or having their own feelings hurt.
Yeah.
But to me, my feelings were hurt when I didn't get a commission check. So that was my definition of getting my feelings hurt.
Right.
So
like a true salesperson. You and me both. One other thing, and I'll pump the brakes on these trial closes. Remember, we're not in the 60s here. I'm not talking about some sort of trial close. I learned at New York Life a few trial closes, and if I got a yes to anything, I was filling out a medical form. We're not talking about that. I want a no. If somebody says, no, I don't think I'm ready to look at alternatives, then why would I go and show them alternatives? Let's figure out why. Let's stay there. Maybe we lose this deal right here. We'd rather lose it here than invest a lot of time and effort and resources, months, as you described, and then realize we're not even talking to the decision maker. We're talking to a decision influencer.
Or they already made a decision and you just don't know it.
Right. Because they're friendly. The book is called Above Quota Performance. I've got to tell you, I'm going to get myself one of those because I want to get a little bit smarter too. I can find that at Barnes and Noble and any online store, things like that.
Amazon. Yes.
Beautiful. Yeah.
It's officially being released on October 11th, but it's being pre-sold right now.
Oh, so want to do an author a favor? Go sign up for the book. It changes the algorithm on Amazon. So I'm reminding you, Steve, and I'm telling any author out there. Comes out October 11th. Now's the time to get in line. Now's the time to get that order in, because A, you're going to get that book as quickly as you can, and B, we're going to help that move that algorithm along a little bit. Listen, Steve has some radical ideas. And before we started, he was talking to me about objection. And I said, whoa, I want to hear that one. So got a couple of unique thoughts about objection handling. The floor is yours, sir.
Okay. When most of us went through sales training, we spent at the minimum hours and often days learning how to handle objections, how to counter objections. If they said this, you say this. If they go this way, you go that way. And I probably spent 100 hours or more listening to this and then practicing it with role playing and so forth. I call that objection jujitsu. Okay. You always have to have a counter move, and your sales manager is watching you. And if you don't do it right, then they drill you. You should have said this, you should have done this. Now, my idea is totally different. My idea is welcome objections. If you don't get objections, ask for objections. Okay. Now, when I've said that to people, they go, "Are you out of your mind? Why would you want objections?" And my answer to that is it's really simple. Objections are the reason why they're not buying. So and there always will be objections, no matter what. There's never a case where there's no objection. So you need to know what those objections are so that you can determine what your strategy is to close the sale. If you're operating in the dark, or if you're busy trying to neutralize it, which, by the way, often can be very insulting to the person you're talking to. Like, let me give you an example. They say, "Well, we don't like your price." Well, what don't you like about the price? I mean, that's a very insulting comeback, right? And it puts the prospect on the defensive. Well, why do you want to do that? That makes no sense. And let me change the conversation. They go, "Well, I don't like your price." Okay, well, tell me more about that. Give me some more information. What don't you like about the price? Okay.
Right.
What haven't I explained to you about the value that we're going to provide to you? Let's have a conversation in that direction, and never lose your temper or get excited about it or try to overreact to an objection. Objections are really good.
Yeah, they are good. They are good, Steve. Let me jump in real fast.
They're great information.
Yeah, I'll throw a stat back at you. I learned that sales calls without at least one objection have a 26% chance less of closing than sales calls with an objection. So it's been proved statistically. And Steve, you just explained why. Would you rather that prospect say, "You know what, I feel uncomfortable and I don't want to make them, I'll just sit on this objection. Maybe I'll ask the competition about this objection, but I don't want to talk to the salesperson." Steve was real clear about this. I want you to hear it. He's telling you, A, don't be afraid of it. B, welcome it. You should. It's a dialogue. Let's get it on the table. And don't fear an objection, because statistically, your chances are going to decrease if you don't get one.
I mean, really, the worst thing is if you're standing in front of a group of people, or you're on a Zoom, and you're presenting to them or speaking with them, and they don't react at all, and they just sit there. That's terrible. So, and that's on you. So right. Therefore, then you need to ask questions. And you need to draw out the objection. Yeah. And you need to ask them what is not, why are they not reacting to this? Yeah. What do they like or don't they like?
Yeah. Something, I'll share something with you. And I don't talk about this very often because I think it's a little, people think, "Oh, wait, Jollis is really old school," but I told you I like trial closes. Well, two trial closes that people don't frequently use are that first one, a fix, don't fix. Do you want to, is this a good time to look at alternatives or not? Got it. The second one, also not really as aggressive. Is this what it's going to take to make you happy? Or, will you be basing your decision on this list here? That's not. But I actually do like a third trial close that people just hate. I don't throw it in from left field. I earn the right to get there. But when somebody says, yeah, I want it fixed, that's what it's going to take to fix it. I will say, I'm going to ask you one more question. I bet you heard it a few times. I just hope you can appreciate why I need to ask it. If I can show you a way, and here comes that, if I can do this, will you do that? It smacks of old school, and yet, Steve, it walks right into what you were just talking about, which is if I say to you, good, if I can do this and prove to you I can do it better than anyone else, is there any reason why I wouldn't have a shot working with you? I'm telling you, folks, you're in a sense saying, I'm begging you for your objection now. If you've got one, give it to me. And if not, we're moving forward. That's how we flush out objections. Don't be afraid of them,
Right.
And clarify them, like you just said.
Objections are information, and
Yeah.
what salesperson doesn't want more information?
Right.
It's the information you need to close the sale.
Yeah.
Another real radical idea to jump in is when I ask people who their competition was, I always got a list of names. It's this company, it's that company, and it's just these awful people on the other side of the country that always undermine our prices, and they give us all that. And I always looked at them and I said, they're not your competition. None of those are your competition. Your competition is do nothing. That's your competition.
Mm.
That is your hardest competition. They're way harder than the other guys.
Right.
Okay. Getting them to make a change and motivating them and getting them over the fear of change. That's your competition.
Fear of change.
Once you've got that, you can win the sale. You can beat the other guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I saw you have a very diverse client list, as do I. And people will often look at guys like us and go, how do you go from that one to that one? And again, I hope it's a Steveism, by the way. Steve just used some magic words there. Fear of change. That's real. I don't care if it's Facebook or Schmacebook or Bank of America. They're battling their prospects, their clients, people who are sitting there going, well, the market is jumping and the market is scaring me. And I'm doing it this way, but it isn't very good. At the end of the line, what they're really saying is, you could be better. What if you're worse? I think I'll stick with not so hot. That fear of change permeates a lot of decision making.
It does, and it freezes people.
Yeah.
And I've seen people make the choice, and they know to make a change is better for the company and better for themselves and better for their career, but they won't do it because of either the fear of change or some other aspects, like they would have to change people, or they would have to do additional training or buy equipment or some dislocation of some kind, and that will cause the sale to freeze.
Yeah.
So that's another area that people, they're always, when they're sales training, they always tell you how to beat, competitor ABC.
All right, let me move you along. I just wrote a piece, and I'm not here to talk about me, so I'm not going to tell you when it's come out or anything. But I wrote a piece because so many people say, can you sales train us in like an hour? And it's a little more complicated than that. But I sort of laughed and I said, all right, I'm gonna boil this thing down a little bit. I'm going to give you 5 moves that I'm not going to call it sales training, but I'm going to say, you want to see the 5 biggest moves I could suggest, and I'm going to do it in about 600 words. Okay. And I'm going to really trim it. I'm going to push to you, Steve. And here's my question. If you were talking to somebody, and you're going to be talking to a lot of people about this book, and they said, okay, what would be 1 or 2 of the most, if you didn't have a whole lot of time, and you said, if nothing else, do this 1 or 2 moves and you'll move the bar. It'll get you the biggest bang, short of sales training. What would be 1 or 2 tips or techniques or process moves you'd suggest?
That's a good one, because I have like about 50 or 60.
I know, we got to trim it down. Welcome to the party.
Well, I think listen to the prospect. Listen. Okay. Most, we learned, I know I learned at a young age, my father drilled into me, he said, Steve, you got 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 1 mouth. And what God is trying to tell you is to use your ears and your eyes more than your mouth. Okay. And what I've seen salespeople do that cause them to fail is that they speak, and then while the prospect or buyer is speaking, they're preparing their thought for their next thing to say. So they're not listening. So what they need to do is to take the time to listen to what the buyer is saying and not think about how to respond to it until after the buyer finishes what they're saying, and then shift into the mode of response.
Okay. That's one. Hold on to that one. And oh, by the way, a great way of doing it, particularly if you're virtual, but a great way of doing it is take notes. Sometimes when I talk to salespeople, I go, take notes. They go, well, what am I writing? And I tell them two things. You're going to write anything that client thinks is important, because if you just lean back and ignore it, they're going to think that you've dismissed it. But the second thing you're looking for is, what is that problem that they're grappling with, so that you can pay full attention to them and no, I'm not going to forget it. I got it. Lock in and listen. Oh, by the way, in the article, you'll see when it comes out, number one on my list, of course, is listen. I put ask questions and listen, but let's call them 1A and 1B. Give me one more. Let's see if you're on my list. Okay. You got the number one. See if you can go number two.
Okay. I'm trying to think of what would be a good second thing on after
Not easy.
that. No, it's a lot. I think the other one is to try to sell to the most qualified prospects, not try to sell to everybody. The world is not your market. So you need to target the prospects are they're the most likely for you to sell to. And what I propose is what I call the sweet spot, which is the intersection of what your value proposition is, what their need is, and what your competitor's weakness is. So if you can find a prospect that is in that sweet spot, your chances of closing that sale are much higher than if they're in none of those, or one of those, or two of those. And I explained how to find these.
Right.
So
excellent. I love it.
Yeah, a third area is to use LinkedIn.com for business development.
Right.
To me, it was a godsend.
Yeah. Yeah. And I can tell you, he uses it. He reached out and linked up with me about a half hour ago. So
right.
He's very smart and makes sense. I love it. I that one did make my list. I think I was, but I'm going to stay off my list. I love your list. I want to use the precious minutes we have left, because I could go 2 hours with you.
Right.
I want to flip it a little bit. I want to talk about, and maybe this is in your book and maybe it isn't, but I know it's in your head, Steve, because you're too seasoned not to have this in your head. A lot of people are trying to find the right salesperson, the right mentality, the right kind of person. They got different tests for it, et cetera, but right. It's still kind of a guessing game. If you were looking at, if a client came to you and said, we want to hire you as a consultant, what should we be looking for in a salesperson? What characteristic? What I saw you reach for the book. It's in the book.
Yeah. Well, in the book, I list about 20 different characteristics.
Okay.
And, here's what I found. I studied this.
Okay.
And I looked for a lot of common traits. And what I found was that high-performing salespeople are very, very different. They're really no different than the population in random. So how do you find what those are? And as I drilled down, they all had different styles. So style is not part of it. And a lot of people go for introverts or go for extroverts over introverts. And that's not part of it either, because they can both be successful. So to me, empathy is number one. Intelligence, the ability to think on your feet and react quickly is important. The ability to recognize where the client is going, and then to be, as you would say, agile enough to go with it rather than to stick to your script. I think is really important. I think a drive for achievement. I mean, I have seen salespeople do what I would call miracles in order to achieve President's Club. I mean, I've seen things. I've seen salespeople go out on New Year's Eve and close a sale on New Year's Eve in order to get it in by the end of the year to achieve President's Club and miss that party that night. So I think the motivation of salespeople cannot be underestimated.
Right.
And if they're not motivated for success, I don't really want them on my team. I just don't.
Right. I love the fact that you brought out. It's really important people hear that. And once again 1000% agreed. It's not an extrovert or an introvert. It's not a funny person or the loudest person in the room.
Right.
We have to be true to our own style. You know, Steve, I got asked this question on a panel a couple years ago, and I was in kind of an ornery mood. And because but the people on the panel are like, somebody who knows the product better than anybody else. You know, I was like, ugh, couldn't stand that answer. Somebody, you know, who can talk a lot. It's like, ugh, I hate that answer. So they came to me and I said, I've been looking for somebody who could take a punch because unlike being an accountant or some other professions, the one thing that some people will shy away from sales is you're going to win and you're going to lose. And we all enjoy the wins, believe me, but not if, but when you take that punch, as Mike Tyson said, don't have the quote perfectly, but something like, you know, everybody's brave until they get punched in the face.
Correct.
Right?
Yes.
When we get punched in the face, what does that look like? Can you handle that? Can you dust yourself off and get back up? If you can, it's not my only criteria, but I'm interested.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you have to learn not to take rejection personally.
Right.
Doesn't mean if you lose, if they don't want to buy from you, it doesn't mean you're a bad person.
Right.
It may mean that you didn't do a very, very good job and you need to do a better one next time and you need to learn from it. But it doesn't mean you're a bad person.
Right. You can't take it personally.
Right.
I'll quote somebody else and do a bad job of it. But as a Maryland Terp alum, I'm not a big North Carolina fan. Sorry, folks. But I remember going to a lot of games and watching Dean Smith coach. Might not have liked North Carolina, but I respected him as a coach. And he said, one of his quotes that I love was, he said, you can't approach everything, every win and loss is life and death, because to begin with, you're going to be dead a lot. And I smiled when I saw that, and I thought, ain't that the truth in our profession? As Steve just told you, don't have to take it personally. Maybe we learn from it. Maybe we figure out what we did real well, maybe what we do a little bit differently next time, and then let it go and get it behind us. But that's a characteristic I look for, and I agree with you. I'm looking for mental agility as well.
And I think intelligence is really important. You know, you don't want somebody that is not very intelligent and can't hold a conversation with the prospect.
Yeah.
You don't want. So.
Right. Well, and that's an interesting form of intelligence you just brought up. Sometimes when you hear intelligence, it's, well, I can memorize the product specs. No, at least for me, my form of intelligence is, can you lock eyes, listen to the person you're talking to, trust your instincts, take a pause, and ask another question. Use what's in your brain to form another question, not while they're talking.
Right.
Lock in. Trust. I mean, here I'm using the words trust yourself. In other words, it's okay. But again, if we're at Starbucks, don't we take a pause, take a sip, and they go, well, why do you feel that way? Or tell me more about that. Those questions will be there, but that's a form of intelligence. I'm with you that I'd be looking for. It's intelligence / agility.
Correct. And have the courage to ask questions.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, don't just don't keep them in your head and not ask them.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay. Last question for you.
Sure.
And an easy one. Is there anything I should have asked you, but I didn't?
Well, I don't think so, but I'm sure there is. Let me think. No, I think, well, I would say, would I recommend sales to new people? And I would say, absolutely. I don't know too many universities that have courses in sales, and I think that's really unfortunate. So I think sales is a wonderful profession, and depending on who you speak with, I mean, even somebody like Warren Buffett will tell you that sales is the most important job in the company. But when you think about it and you see all these people that graduate, even from business school or not business school, but even with MBAs, and they've never taken a course in sales. So I think as we go into the 2020s, I think we're not going to get rid of salespeople. We're going to need more salespeople, and they're going to need to be better than they were in the past. The people we had in the past, they could get by with a smile and a shoe shine. The people in the future, they've got to be much better.
Yeah,
and
I hear you.
It's a fun, to me, it's fun. Every day is different. And many places you get to travel a lot. You get to meet a lot of new people. You get to meet, in some companies, very high level people, very interesting people, and learn about the companies. I learned an awful lot about the different companies that I dealt with. And, one other thing, one piece of advice, if you're on a sales call and your prospect says, would you like to see our plant, or would you like to go to our store? Always say yes. Yes, I would. I want to see your plant. I want to learn about your company. I'm very interested in your company. I've seen people say, no, I got a plane to catch. I got to get out of here. It's really stupid. So, take what I call it, take the trip, go around the company and learn. Learn what they're all about. Yeah. And that could be the edge that gets you the deal, by knowing more about the company and why they do what they do.
Right. Yeah. I love the fact, Steve, you targeted the universities here a little bit. I can give you some good news. I'm only going to, I can give you three. But I'll tell you where it started. A shout out to the University of Houston, because the University of Houston, over a decade ago, created a selling college. P.S. It's quite a line of people waiting to get in that selling college, but they're teaching them sales processes from books like yours. They're having them work with various programs. They're having them actually sell mixers and things like that, where they're actively selling. And I know that they've spawned programs at LSU. They've spawned programs at Michigan State, and I'm sure there's more. It's slow, it's common, but they take it very seriously. And the professors are salespeople that are coming in there. One was a retired Bumblebee tuna exec, but who sold. So they're real world programs. Thank goodness. I wish, I'll just dovetail and jump on one of my soapboxes real fast. I wish, along with that sales course, we would have performance. I call them performance skills. Some people call them soft skills. Don't like the word, but a soft skills / performance skills program that really gets at a little bit deeper about fine tuning the way we're communicating, because a lot of people that I'm seeing, their hard skills don't fail them. Their soft skills fail them. And I haven't seen a course on that one yet. I wish there were.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
Totally agree with you on that. Yeah.
All right, my friend. How do people get a hold of you?
Well, they can get a hold of me from my website at www.steveweinberg, That's probably the easiest place.
That sounds easy to me. Okay. So the book, Above Quota Performance, we know where to find it. We know where to get it. We know where to find Steve. I want to tell you that, and I think if you listen to my podcast, probably I try and be as energetic as possible, but I can never struggle finding energy to talk to a fellow salesperson. I've enjoyed the heck out of it, my friend. I'm grateful to have had you on the show. Thank you so much.
You're welcome, Rob. It's been a pleasure.
You bet. Well, we'll do it again as well as we can next time, everybody. Until then, stay safe.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed today's show, please rate and recommend it on iTunes, Outcast, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also get more information on this show and Rob at jollis.com.